All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. There being no dissenting voice, I declare the motion carried.
You even realize what you applauded. I saw tears of joy, but let me tell you, I too have tears because you applauded denial of people like me to receive the counseling they desire out of free choice.
This is something that is unique to Canada, and the experience of the Canadian government in passing this unanimously without any public consultation, either in the House or in the Senate, tells me that they wanted to bypass hearing from Canadians because they were too afraid of facing the truth.
Go to banbillc4.com. There you'll be able to sign our petition as well as click so that you can send an email directly to the politicians who passed this troubling bill. Adam Soos here for Rebel News, and I am with Jose Ruba of Free to Care. We spoke to you a couple months back talking about this conversion therapy ban. Since that time, it's been reviewed a few times, but not necessarily improved in any way, shape, or form. And then today, effectively passed by Senate. For those who aren't familiar with this bill, can you tell us about the bill and why it's so troubling?
Well, conversion therapy has many definitions around the world. It is supposed to be a practice, treatment, or service meant to change someone's sexual orientation from gay to straight, often by force. And of course, everyone should be against forceful conversion or forceful counseling. No one supports that. Mm-hmm. The problem is the bill that was passed, Bill C-4 in the Senate today, actually bans so much more than that. What it actually does, it bans counseling even for someone who wants to simply reduce their non-heterosexual or non-cisgender behavior, even if they're not trying to change their orientation or gender identity. It prevents parents from helping young people, even if the kids as young as 7 or 8 want counseling support. That would be criminalized. You can go to jail for 5 years for doing that. And the part that people don't seem to understand, because they say, no, conversations are not going to be banned. There's also a provision called the promoting or advertising provision in the ban, which means simply giving a phone number to someone of a counselor who will help them reduce their non-heterosexual behavior would also be criminalized, and you could go to jail for 2 years. That's what happened to me when I was in university. I asked one of my Christian friends for the phone number of a local Christian counselor to help me reduce my non-heterosexual attractions and behavior, and she was glad to give that number. I got the counseling. It wasn't, the best thing, but it wasn't a horrible thing either. And there were some good lessons I learned from that I still put in practice today as a celibate man. That person who gave me that phone number now could go to jail for 2 years.
In addition to Jose, we were joined by some world experts, psychiatrists, and people with personal testimonies and stories surrounding conversion therapy.
My name is Wilna van Beek, and I'm a survivor of forced and coercive conversion therapy, the kind of therapy we all agree should be banned. But as a survivor of conversion therapy, I'm here today to also speak out against Bill C-4, which just passed the House of Commons and now the Senate with a standing ovation. Do you even realize what you applauded? I saw tears of joy, but let me tell you, I too have tears because you applauded denial of people like me to receive the counseling they desire out of free choice. This is my story. After my mom discovered I was in a gay relationship, she sent me to a psychiatrist in the hope that he would fix me. He bound me to a bed, injected me with a substance, and then forced me to talk. This harmed me so much. I still remember it today. I strongly support banning these kinds of harmful practices, but this type of therapy is already banned in Canada. We don't need another law, and definitely not a law like Bill C-4 as it's worded right now.
Right, and this is really the heart of the problem for even people who aren't religious, right, who just want to support LGBTQ rights, because it's actually the LGBT community who are harmed most by this. Because imagine now, if you're heterosexual and you want to get counseling to reduce your heterosexual behavior or attractions, you have no restrictions on doing that. And you can manage that, you can get all kinds of support or help. But if it's the same person but with non-heterosexual attractions or behavior, say gay porn addiction, there is now potentially a criminal law that you have to prove you're not doing something in order to get this counseling. So I just at that level, it's discriminatory. It actually prevents adults. And here's the point that was different. So the Bill C-6 that died on order paper before the election, the government changed it. So now it prevents adults from having conversations, even consenting conversations, with a counselor of their choice. That would be criminalized. The person seeking counseling doesn't go to jail, but everyone else who offers the counseling does. So how can the counseling be available at that point? So really, and this is what's egregious, the government has said there's an international consensus against conversion therapy, but the problem is all the other governments around the world, except those in Canada, do not define conversion therapy this broadly. Even the United Nations, even places like Malta, this is something that is unique to Canada, and the experience of the Canadian government in passing this unanimously without any public consultation, either in the House or in the Senate, tells me that they wanted to bypass hearing from Canadians because they were too afraid of facing the truth.
Bill C-4 bans help to reduce non-heterosexual behavior. The World Health Organization recognizes compulsive sexual behavior disorder as a clinical syndrome. There are people whose opposite sex or same-sex behavior is compulsively taking up so much of their time or money on a daily basis that it is interfering with basic management of their lives. Please note, C-4 would send to prison the lead author himself of the World Professional Association for Transgender Health Standards of Care, who specializes in helping people reduce compulsive sexual behavior. If this behavior is with the same sex, Bill C-4 criminalizes treatment for a known recognized disorder.
Even if you're not religious, most Canadians think you should be faithful to your spouse, right? Regardless of if it's the same sex or the opposite sex. Remember, the bill says any counseling to reduce non-heterosexual behavior is now considered conversion therapy. So if you're happily married to whatever sex, but you're having an affair with someone behind your spouse's back, and that happens to be someone of the same sex, you could not get counseling to reduce that non-heterosexual behavior. That's the point. This is not even about whether you're religious or not. And yes, you're right. The vast majority of world religions govern how we ought to behave sexually. It's been there since the beginning of these religions. So now here's the government telling these religious groups, you now have to teach this kind of idea, or else you could go to jail if you provide counseling that will live according to or help people live according to their religious faith.
We're going to move to accelerate the passage of this bill. Mr. Trudeau has had 4 opportunities. He's failed 3 bills. He had 4 times that he could have moved on this in the last 5 years. He has failed, and he's using the LGBTQ community in a way that's not appropriate politically. I'm a longtime ally of the community. We're going to move to accelerate passage of this bill.
Well, I can't speak to the Conservatives' mindset on that. I'm not there. I will say, and this is a matter of fact, one of our friends, Garnet Genius, who's been pushing the fix the definition, they did this while he was out of the country. So he couldn't object himself. So kudos on him that he wasn't one of the many MPs who probably just gave up, if I can just say it that way generously. And hopefully they're convicted by the fact that this bill is so terrible. But I think many of them just said, this has to be challenged in court, and they just gave up on shirked their responsibility. And that's one of the reasons why I'm personally, along with some other friends who've experienced positive help from these counseling supports, are launching a new website called beyondgay.ca. That's beyondgay.ca. So it's a peer-to-peer counseling. We're not saying we're professional counselors, but we have gone through this experience, and we're asking people who are looking for this help now that they're trying to criminalize it, or they have criminalized it, to say, look, you're not alone. We strongly believe heterosexual Canadians should have a right to get this counseling, and so should non-heterosexual Canadians. That's why we're offering the site beyondgay.ca.
Wonderful. So head to beyondgay.ca if you want more information on that. This obviously just the latest in the never-ending ideological trends that are being pushed by this government and the complicit NDP, especially for those members perhaps of the LGBTQ community seeking information, seeking to make an informed decision, now being pandered to and treated like children as though they can't make these decisions for themselves. We're going to keep touching base and see how this goes. Hopefully this doesn't stand up in court. Jose, thanks so much for this, and as always, thanks for tuning in. For Rebel News, I'm Adam Soos. If you think that regardless of people's backgrounds or beliefs, Canadians should be free to seek out whatever counseling they see fit, as long as it doesn't transition into forced therapy, hate speech, or discrimination, go to banbillc4.com. There you'll be able to sign our petition as well as click so that you can send an email directly to the politicians who passed this troubling bill.